She accidentally married a cold-hearted CEO after one drunken night. Now she can't escape his world. The rain had just stopped, leaving droplets clinging to the windows of the luxurious penthouse overlooking Central Park. Ava opened her eyes, her head pounding like drums, her mouth dry, her thoughts hazy. She sat up slowly and instantly realized this wasn't her bed, not even her apartment. Silk sheets, marble floors, a skyline view. This was definitely not Brooklyn. Then she saw it on the nightstand, a thick white envelope. With trembling hands, she picked it up and pulled out a document. The words at the top hit her like a slap. Marriage certificate. Her name. His name. Real signatures. A real seal. Before she could blink, the bathroom door swung open. A man stepped out. Tall, clean-shaven, top shirt buttons undone. Jet black hair, a chiseled jawline, and cold gray eyes. He looked at her like she was a stranger intruding into his life. Then he spoke, emotionless. "You signed, we're married, and I don't break contracts." Eva stared at him. "What? Married? This has to be a joke, right?" He didn't answer. Instead, he poured himself a glass of water and took calm sips. "I needed a wife. You were available." He glanced at her. "Now, unless you want to go to court, I suggest you reread what you signed last night." Her heart sank. This wasn't a dream, and it wasn't a joke. It was real. She had no idea who this man was, but now she was his wife, and his eyes told her he never joked. Ava West was the kind of woman who wore mismatched socks and forgot her phone 5 times a day. She lived in a tiny Brooklyn apartment filled with paintings, coffee mugs, and color palettes. A freelance graphic designer with a dreamer's heart, Ava believed in love, art, and the healing power of coffee. She had just come out of a 5-year relationship that ended in a betrayal she never saw coming. Her ex-fiancé left her for someone more ambitious with better connections, whatever that meant. Last night, she did what any heartbroken 20-something might do: drink tequila with her best friend. The last thing she remembered was ordering another round. The rest was a blur. She was impulsive, stubborn when cornered, but never cruel. Her strength came from vulnerability, though she hadn't realized it yet. Lou Campstone was the opposite: a billionaire tech CEO, Harvard graduate, disciplined, sharp, emotionally detached, known in the business world for being brilliant and ruthless. He ran Stone Tech like a machine, including his personal life. He didn't believe in love. He didn't like chaos. He didn't tolerate surprises. But he had a growing problem. The board of directors, especially his powerful grandmother, wanted him to appear more human, more relatable. A stable family man image would elevate his standing in the company and prevent internal sabotage. So he hired a legal team to arrange a controlled, contractual marriage. The bride would be vetted, discreet, and temporary. But Ava West had never been part of the plan, and now he was stuck with a woman who smelled like cinnamon and sunshine, and who had upended everything he thought he could control. Ava sat on the edge of the velvet chair in the living room, still wearing the oversized shirt she had apparently borrowed. Her fingers clutched the marriage license as if it might bite her. Across from her, Lucas stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, already in a crisp navy suit, looking like he was ready for his next meeting. "I want an explanation," she said, her voice unsteady. He didn't turn around. "You were at Madison Club last night. My legal team arranged a private meeting with the contract bride. Someone pre-screened and discreet. You were not that person." She blinked. "Then why didn't you stop it?" "I didn't know until this morning," he said calmly. "But the marriage was witnessed, filed, and legal." Her jaw dropped. "You're telling me I accidentally signed someone else's fake marriage contract?" "Exactly." He turned to face her. "Then clearly this was a mistake. We can fix it. We'll get an annulment." Lucas stepped forward and placed a file in front of her. "Possible, but it doesn't solve my problem." Ava hesitated before opening it. Inside was a thick stack of legal documents, clauses, signatures, agreements. "My board expects me to be married by the end of this week. If not, I risk losing votes, position, and millions in upcoming negotiations. As for you, I'm guessing $500,000, 0 cents, could fix a lot." She gasped. "Excuse me? You remain married. To me in name only, for 6 months. No intimacy required. You attend events, play the part for the media, then divorce, no questions asked. You get $500,000. Clean. Legal." She leaned back as if slapped. "You're serious?" Lucas didn't blink. Ava stood and paced. She was behind on rent, drowning in her mother's medical bills, and didn't have steady clients. But marrying a stranger, living a lie? "This is insane," she whispered. "But convenient," he added, cold as ever. She turned to him, eyes blazing. "Weigh me?" His gaze didn't waver. "Because last night, even drunk, you were more honest in 5 minutes than most people are in a lifetime." Her mouth opened slightly. She didn't expect that answer. Lucas stepped closer. "I don't need perfect, I need real, and for some stupid reason, you're now legally my wife." Silence. Then Ava let out a laugh. It sounded like surrender. "You're serious?" "I don't joke," Lucas replied. She took a long, deep breath. 6 months? He nodded. "No intimacy?" "Unless you want to complicate things." "And I walk away after that? With $500,000 and a clean divorce." She looked down at the paper again, her hand shaking. Her life had been a mess lately. Maybe one more bad decision would matter. Or maybe, just maybe, it would change everything. Ava closed her eyes, exhaled slowly, and said the words that would turn her world upside down. "All right, I'll do it." 3 days later, Ava dragged her old suitcase into the penthouse that was now, temporarily, her home. The place was too perfect, too quiet, too sterile. Every piece of furniture looked like it had been measured with a ruler, every line too precise to breathe freely. "Your room is at the end of the hall on the left," Lucas said, not looking up from his tablet. "The contract is on the nightstand. You should read and sign it before dinner." Ava raised an eyebrow. "Wow, so romantic." He didn't flinch. "Everything's clearly outlined. Shared appearance dates, privacy clauses, conflict resolution protocols." "You sound like a robot," she muttered. Lucas turned and disappeared into his office, leaving Ava standing in the middle of a place that felt more like a showroom than a home. To her, it wasn't a place to live. It was a blank canvas, and she was a splash of watercolor out of place. That evening, she wandered the apartment. The living room was 3 times the size of her old flat. The guest bedroom was immaculate, like something out of a catalog. Even the bathroom supplies were untouched. Perfume bottles, lotions, toothbrushes, all still sealed in plastic. The next morning marked their first breakfast as a couple. Ava stumbled into the kitchen wearing a worn hoodie and pajama shorts, hair a mess. Lucas was already seated at the sleek glass table, dressed in a tailored suit, reading financial reports as if they lived in separate universes. She fiddled with the coffee machine. "Is this a spaceship?" "Press the silver button, not the red one," he said without looking. "Which one's silver?" Lucas sighed, stood, pressed the correct button, handed her a mug, and returned to his seat. She sipped, then looked up. "Okay, fine. You get points for the coffee." He didn't respond. Just silence, tight as a wire between 2 strangers under the same roof, temporarily sharing a life neither of them planned. Living with Lucas Reed was a strange experience. He wasn't rude, but he wasn't warm either. He didn't talk much, yet always seemed to know exactly what was going on. Ava often called him the emotionless CEO in her head, because he handled life like a spreadsheet, neat, logical, with no room for mess or surprise. But sometimes, silence revealed more than words ever could. One night, Ava sat cross-legged on the sofa, trying to sketch a logo for a client. Her eyes were tired, but her mind was too tense to rest. Her mother was in the hospital again, mild heart failure, and the latest bill had pushed past what she could afford. She assumed Lucas hadn't noticed. He always shut himself inside his office like a fortress. But the next morning, when she woke up, there was a small note slipped under her door. "Send me the invoice. It's handled." Ava clutched the note, and to her surprise, tears welled up. Not because of the money, but because, for the first time, someone had quietly noticed and acted without asking, without expecting anything in return. A few nights later, near midnight, she found Lucas still working at the kitchen counter. Stress etched across his face, tie loose around his neck. Without a word, Ava set a plate of microwave mac and cheese in front of him and walked away. He didn't thank her, but he ate every bite. Gradually, the space between them began to shrink. There were still rules, still boundaries, but each small gesture, a perfectly made coffee, an unexpected question, a glance that lingered just a second longer, was a silent step towards something unnamed. On a chilly evening in early December, they stood side by side on the balcony, gazing at the glowing city below. Ava asked softly, "Do you ever feel like you're just performing in your own life?" Lucas didn't answer right away. Then he said, voice barely above a whisper, "Yes, but I don't think I'd know how to stop." The third week passed, and their first public event finally arrived. A charity gala held at the Plaza Hotel, where New York's wealthiest would gather. Lucas's board would be there too. The press would be watching every glance, every touch, and Ava had to play the perfect wife. In the dressing room, she stood before the mirror, adjusting the waist of a deep emerald dress chosen by Lucas's assistant days earlier. It hugged her in all the right places, elegant and poised, entirely unlike anything she'd ever wear. The matching heels looked stunning and dangerous. She turned just as Lucas entered. He stopped when he saw her. Not long, not obvious, but she noticed the pause. "You look acceptable," he said, emotionless. Ava raised an eyebrow. Careful, that almost sounded like a compliment. "I'm managing expectations," he replied. She smirked. "And you look like someone who hasn't smiled since the Obama administration." At the gala, Lucas played his part perfectly, shaking hands, nodding, offering sharp, concise answers. Ava stayed close, smiling on cue, clinking glasses at the right moments. She didn't drink. It was all for show. At one point, Lucas leaned in, his lips brushing her ear. "You can ease up on the smile. You look like you're in pain." She whispered back, "I am. These heels are medieval torture." Lucas chuckled softly, and for the first time, Ava saw a version of him that wasn't pretending. After the gala, neither of them spoke about the night, but Ava could feel it. Something had shifted. She caught him glancing at her once in the kitchen, and for the first time, he didn't look away. Her heart wasn't ready for it, but part of her already hoped. Lucas no longer avoided her gaze. He started asking small things. "How was your day?" or "Did you eat?" Short, clipped, but real. And every time he let out the smallest laugh, her heartbeat stumbled just a little. One evening, they sat on the couch. Lucas still in his shirt, sleeves rolled up. Ava sketching quietly beside him. Soft jazz hummed in the background. Neither said a word, yet the silence felt warm. Not like two strangers acting married, but like two people quietly sharing the same air. The next morning, Ava woke to her phone buzzing nonstop. A friend had sent a headline, "Bake Wife Real Affair? Ava Morgan spotted hugging her ex in Soho." The photo was grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakable. She was embracing Jason, her ex, outside a cafe. A split second, stretched into scandal. She remembered the day. Jason had called, apologized, asked to meet one last time. Ava agreed, out of courtesy, not feeling. The hug had been goodbye, but now it was ammo for speculation. She walked into the kitchen, heart pounding. Lucas sat there, tablet in front of him, the article open. He didn't say a word. "It was nothing," Ava said, voice trembling slightly. "Just goodbye." "I know," Lucas replied, eyes still on his coffee. You don't look at him the way you look at me. Ava froze. Partly because it was true, and partly because she wasn't sure when she started looking at him that way. That night, they ate dinner in silence. Soft lighting, slow movements, and then, gently, Ava asked, if it wasn't for the company or the board, why did you agree to a fake marriage? Lucas answered, quietly, because I wanted to know what it feels like to come home to someone who isn't afraid of me. Thursday night, Ava was sketching in her room when a knock echoed through the apartment. She expected a delivery, maybe Lucas's assistant, but when she opened the door, she came face to face with a tall woman, soft waves in her hair, draped in an expensive cream trench coat, eyes sharp behind a polite smile. Hi, the woman said. I'm looking for Lucas. Ava paused. And you are? Veronica Hale, the woman replied gently, his ex. Ava's heartbeat spiked. Just then, Lucas stepped in from the hallway. His body tensed, not in surprise, but something closer to weariness. Veronica, he said quietly, this is a surprise. She smiled faintly. Remember the last thing you told me? Never contact you again? Lucas stepped forward, suddenly placing himself between her and Ava. Why are you here? I saw the news, Veronica said, her gaze drifting to Ava. I just wanted to see it for myself. Ava crossed her arms. Well, now you have. Anything else? Veronica smiled thinly. Plenty, but I'll keep it short. Lucas, can we speak privately? Lucas turned to Ava. She gave a small nod. The study door closed behind them. Ava stood in the hallway, hands clenched, heart pounding for reasons she didn't want to name. When Lucas returned 15 minutes later, his face was unreadable, but his eyes looked faintly tired. She's leaving tomorrow, he said. She wanted to get back together? Ava asked, voice low. Lucas nodded. I said no. Ava wanted to feel relief, but all she felt was a hollow ache. Because of the contract. Beat. Then he said, no. After the encounter with Veronica, the distance between them stopped being imaginary. Lucas didn't change overnight, but the small things vanished. His lingering glances, his clumsy check-ins, the accidental brush of fingers during coffee. In their place came back-to-back meetings, a closed office door, and breakfasts with one empty chair. Ava didn't blame him, but she felt the absence. One evening she made dinner, not out of duty, but because she wanted to offer something real, even if it was quiet. Lucas entered the kitchen, paused briefly at the table. I have a meeting, he said, then turned to leave. This isn't about work, Ava said, her voice behind him. You're pulling away. You're afraid this is becoming real. Lucas turned back, his eyes somewhere far. Because if it becomes real, I won't know how to survive losing it. Silence fell between them. Then, she said, voice trembling but steady, I won't stay to sign something false. She left that night. Quietly, no accusations, just a small suitcase and a heart learning how to let go. She moved into the spare room of her best friend's Soho apartment, a place once full of memories, now just temporary shelter for a heart trying to hold itself together. She buried herself in freelance work, logo drafts, magazine edits, endless email threads. Every day began with coffee and ended in manufactured exhaustion. She smiled when needed, said thank you when expected, but at night, she lay in silence, staring at her dark phone, never texting. Lucas did the opposite. He retreated into his familiar world, quiet, structured, efficient. But the penthouse felt emptier than ever. No one was there to make the wrong coffee, no one rummaged through the kitchen for toast, and every time he passed the sofa where she used to sketch, he paused. Just a second too long. Neither of them called. No messages, no explanations. But both, in their own quiet ways, were trying to move forward, while still remembering every piece of what they'd left behind. 2 weeks had passed since Ava left. She hadn't heard from Lucas, and she hadn't reached out. Until that morning, when she returned from a client meeting and found a small package on her doorstep. No name, but the clean fold of the envelope, the way her name was written, it was unmistakably him. Inside was a copy of their marriage contract and a handwritten note. Simple, unadorned. I once hired someone to verify who you were. Your friend's address was part of that file. I'm sorry for that. But this isn't about contracts anymore. It's about my heart. You were never a choice. You were the most beautiful result of a mistake. Lucas. Ava stood still for a long time. That evening, she walked into the lobby of Reed Technologies. Lucas came down to meet her, not surprised, like he had been waiting. I got your letter, she said. He nodded. I needed you to know. Why did you let me go? Lucas looked her in the eyes. Because I didn't know how to hold on to something I was terrified of losing. You're an idiot, she whispered. I know. A quiet pause. I don't want to be your fake wife anymore. His heart sank. I understand. I want to be your real wife. Lucas blinked. And for the first time in his adult life, he forgot the plans, the logic, the contract. He leaned down and kissed her. Not for the public, not for the media, for them. At last, it was real. 6 months later, the contract officially expired. No press release, no public statement, just a day circled quietly on Lucas's calendar, the day the agreement would end and they would be legally free. Only no one mentioned it. That evening, Ava returned from an exhibition meeting. The penthouse was dimly lit, candles lined the hallway, and soft jazz played in the background. A perfectly orchestrated scene, not Lucas's usual efficiency-first style. Not until she reached the rooftop. Lucas was standing there, hands in his pockets, the glittering skyline of New York behind him. He wore a dark suit, no tie. His eyes weren't cold anymore. They were warm, certain. Hey, she whispered. You're late. I took the long way home. Good. Gave me more time to finish this. He stepped aside. Behind him was a small table. Simple, elegant. On it sat a velvet box. Ava stared at it, then at him. You're not doing what I think you're doing, are you? I probably am, he said, but this time no lawyers, no clauses, no expiration date. He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple, graceful, exactly her style. No more contracts, he said quietly. Just a life. One where I fight for you, where I choose you, not because of a deadline or a vote, but because I don't know how to breathe without you anymore. Ava blinked fast, her hands trembling. I know I'm not easy, Lucas continued, but I love you completely, foolishly, irrevocably, and if you still want me, this time, I want to do it right. She smiled, her eyes glistening. No script? No script. No board of directors? Just a man who's hoping. She stepped forward and took his hand. You had me, she said, the moment you made me coffee and forgot the sugar. Lucas exhaled, a laugh caught between relief and disbelief. So, that's a yes? She took the ring, slid it onto her own finger, and kissed him. I think it's a yes. 3 months later, they married again. No paparazzi, no board members, just a lakeside cabin in Vermont. A handful of close friends, soft music, and a ceremony where they forgot their vows, then laughed through their tears. When Ava whispered, I do, Lucas simply answered, I always have. And when they kissed beneath a star-strewn sky, she remembered the first night they met, a drunken mistake, a wrong name, a contract signed in haste. But somehow it had led them here, not through a perfect plan, but through broken promises, mismatched moments, and a contract neither of them truly believed in. And in the end, what was left was love. Real, unwritten, forever.